You're listening to The People's Pitch, the official podcast of Minneapolis City Soccer Club, brought to you by footballstadiumprints.com. Let's start the show.
And as I talked about just a couple minutes ago, as Joe Watt stands over this one, he appears to be the one taking the penalty here. This is a huge confidence booster if you're Duluth.
Worst case scenario for City right here.
And it stopped! Yes! And it stopped!
Totally redeems himself.
Matt Elder redeeming himself. Oliver with the right foot. The shot is goal!
Oliver!
Justin Oliver will break the scoreless tie. And it is 1-0 Minneapolis City. Is Hutton now on the offense with the left foot.
Goal!
And it is now 2-0 Minneapolis City.
Good finish.
Nick Hutton taking his quick victory lap.
Hola, amigos. It's been a long time since we rapped at you. This is the People's Pitch Podcast, the one and only official podcast of Minneapolis City Soccer Club. As always, I am your host, Nate, joined by my partner in dropping dimes, John Bisworm. John, you, me, people all across the club have been caught up in the high school, college, youth seasons, and it feels like now is the time for the Minneapolis City machine to come alive again.
It is 100% time, Nate, and we were just having, the 20-minute free how you doing conversation before we hit record, and I am jazzed up to finally talk about things other than under 8 soccer or under 9 soccer. So let's just get right into it.
Yeah, although I do appreciate your dedication to the U9 scene. Speaking of the machine coming alive, we got a couple of tryout opportunities to talk about tonight. As well as really what the show is all about, which is a big download on the Minneapolis City players that showed up big in their college and high school seasons. So let's get rolling, John. We'll start with tryout news.
Yes, so it is that time of the year when it all starts to get real, Nate, and you listeners, as you know from listening to us for many years. I know there's plenty of you who have been with us since the beginning. Our first trial period is set to begin tonight, Friday, November 15th. Are you excited? Because I kind of am. Until I get there, then I'll get really excited. We will be over at the Winter Park Fieldhouse, entertaining about 50 to 60 players who are all trying to begin the process of joining the Mighty Crows. And we say it every year, Nate, but it is absolutely true. And I want to stress absolutely true that if you can play and you come to our open trials, you will get every opportunity to make this team. It may fall into a category if it doesn't go well for the trialists where it's just not a club need. There's some returners coming back, or the depth chart is too big. We don't want players to just come and sit. I want them to actually be able to play. And those just kind of factor into the results of not being selected for some of these trial players. But, we have in the past called some players a third of the way through a season or midway through a season and said hey, are you still interested? Here's your shot. Come in as a practice player and help us identify if you can fill a need for us, because we have one coming up, or we have one that's already here. So we really do, as a club, look for making sure that the players who come to these trials understand the process, and that a no is not a no forever. It might be a no for right now. And I can say that that's different at other teams across the land that toss you a shitty looking t-shirt and take your money, and that the cost of that you spend to go to those trials goes right into someone's pocket, where for us it's really just a like for like wash of the facility that we're using, and the costs to get everybody there from an operational perspective. So just want to throw that out there, that Adam Pribble is not getting rich off of tryout money. And historically speaking, I did some math, and if you look across all 3 teams in our programming, to date, since 2016, when we kicked this off, we've had 792 total players come through tryouts since year one. So almost up to that 1,000 mark, which is kind of cool. 41 of those players have been selected to active rosters from the open trial since 2016, and 22 players have joined the club after being a callback midway through a season or halfway through a season, like I said. And notable selections, we say their names every year: Zuhair Alabasi, Max Kent, Jonah Garcia, all-time leading goal scorer Will Kidd. Those are some serious names that we got through the tryout.
Those are serious names, and they've got staying power, right? Like that's a big part of it to know that like you're not just kind of handpicked for a team, where you're not like you said, that like you have to actually work to get on it. Maybe it's your second time trying or your third time, and you've been told like, you're almost there. Here's what you can work on. Then to finally do it, like, how cool, and you stick around.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think too, it's identifying a player from an open tryout that's like, come back to the futures tryouts, or a player that comes through and we're like, this probably isn't the greatest environment for you because of those depth issues that we talked about. Like, here's some names and some numbers of some other teams within the area that aren't too far away that you can try out, and we'd be happy to recommend you, kind of thing. So I think all in all, the value for the dollar for a trialist, I think, is there with our club, because we've shown the proof is in the pudding, Nate. And I believe that unfortunately we are sold out for tonight, but there will be an additional trial opportunities. So if you are interested and you have not signed up and would like to, keep an eye out on the socials and on our website, mplscitysc.com, for more information regarding those later trials. And I think there will be 2 to 3 more after this.
Yeah. All right. Up next on the calendar is the Futures Open Tryout, which is coming up next Friday, November 22nd. John, I was looking at the website, and it looks like the club's doing something a little different this year with this open tryout before Thanksgiving. And at first when I saw that, I thought, oh, that's it. But we're still doing the usual 3-day futures trials in early December. What's the story kind of with the new earlier tryout? Does this signal a change in format? Like, what, is there an early kind of an incentive for guys to get in early? Like, what's the story here?
Well, I've been maybe one toe in the water on the playing side this year during the off season due to my youth coaching obligations this fall. But what I do know is that there were some discussions with the playing side club leadership, and Coach Roy and both him and Coach Heinen kind of have looked at a potential restructuring of the overall future trial process. Basically, like, not to take away from how it began, but to fit more with what the players have said they prefer from a trial environment. So you might see a situation where like there's maybe more of an invite process first, and then a trial more of an open trial process behind that, as well as both of the coaches feeling that like the types of opportunities that they want to see the players in maybe need to change. So for example, if I can add one, in the past for both the 23s and the 19s, or MC2, whatever you want to call it, the second team, and then ultimately the 19s being new last season, is it's a different setup. It's focused more on it used to be like more individual fitness and individual skills, and that was done before we go into situations where they actually play soccer in front of evaluators, and that's going to change a little bit. Also changing is the number of players that are asking for a return. So more bringing players back, less attrition. So what comes with that is less of a need to put them through a battery of like individual testing, and more so putting them into playing situations. And then also that will be applied to new players that are coming in, most likely through an invite, only because they've already been seen by a number of eyes within the club already. So they can kind of take an advance into the next step. So maybe start with that as opposed to putting them into the same environment for a second year.
Yeah, that makes sense too, right? Like you're taking guys that developed over the winter, and some of them even over the summer with the Minneapolis, with the futures, and then jumped right into their high school season where a lot of them were very, very successful. And then back to the trial. It's just like, what they're capable of. You know what a lot of these guys can do. Yep. Now it's just a matter of let's make sure we've got the right mixture of them, and provide an opportunity for new players or players on the bubble to prove that they've got what it takes.
Mm-hmm. Yep, absolutely.
Yeah. Cool. Well, I mean, if you're a player or a parent wondering, is it worth it? Like, the time, the extra money, etc. I mean, John, you and I are huge fans. We have to say yes. And let me tell you why. Ever since its inception, John and I have been huge proponents of the Futures program. And not only because it creates this pipeline to the top team that's super easy to track. It's really fun to be like, oh, Nick Kent playing for the USL2. I remember when he was on the Futures squad.
Evan
right?
Seakin.
Yep, Evan Siefkin, same thing. But also because like it's the best environment outside of, or maybe even including a club environment, I think, for young players to develop. And this last year with the addition of the U19 teams to the Winter League and into the UPSL, we can track even closer now how the Futures program helps players develop and grow into the top players in their age groups. And so, John, I wanted to spend a segment calling out the Futures players and all the successes they've seen this year, both in the high school, both for the U19 players that played high school, but also the U19 and the U21 players that went on to play college. And I think, like I said, you just look at the stats and you look at the awards that they're winning, and it's no coincidence that they're able to elevate their game through the environment that Minneapolis City provides.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's been happening since the Futures started. And honestly, the Minneapolis City environment as a whole has been doing this since its inception. I mean, look at players like Ian Smith, who came in as a high school player. Like, look where it took him. Like, just finishing up his playing career in Norway. Like, and then moving into a full-time coaching career after the fact. Like, he started as a teenager, immediately walked into Green Bay as a freshman, and basically played every minute available unless he was injured.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and now, like you said, look at him now. He's coaching. He's living the dream. He is a fellow youth coach.
Yeah.
Well, let's take a look at the U19 players in high school, because the high school season is fully wrapped. As we know, all the awards have been given out, the trophies have been hoisted, and so it's easy now to take a look back. And I think I'm going to lean heavy on the U19 players that played in the summer. But where I've noticed, or where I can, I've called out some players that played in the Winter League too, because I think that's important to say that, that was a week in, week out environment of small-sided games that really honed some skills. The first group I want to take a look at is a pair that I've identified that played in the Minneapolis-St. Paul All-Star game that Minneapolis City sponsored, provided the trophies for. Coach MVB coached the Minneapolis side
to victory. And on that Minneapolis side, we had U19 Winter League players Ronan Selbo and Kai Lind, which was pretty cool to see them get selected. And please, John, if I miss anyone, let me know, because I'm less familiar with with the whole roster of the Winter League players. But you're doing good.
Yeah, definitely on the Minneapolis side, those are two names that I recognized, which was great to see. And then, John, you move into All-State, and that they're all conference. I don't want to say are just like handed out, but there are so many players that are all conference honorable mention, all conference players, conferences being very different. And the level there, it's really easy to go down the list of all conference players. I don't want to spend a ton of time doing that, so
I'm pretty sure, Nate, not to cut you off there,
no,
that every player that was on our U19 roster made their all-conference team.
Yeah, I'd believe it. So let's jump right into All-State. And again, John, like I looked at the AAA, the AA, and the Single A. A lot of Single A players are outstate. And AA players, some private schools, maybe some names I didn't recognize. So if I missed anyone, let me know. But on the All-State second team, you've got Hudson Benitez, who was a mainstay on our U19 summer team, pitching in with 4 goals and 8 assists for his Minnetonka team this year. That was very, very good. And you'd say got upset by Andover in the state tournament. You've got the Maple Grove duo of Owen Bersham, who as a defender still scored 2 goals, 3 assists, and only allowed 16 goals against the whole season as part of that defense. And then you've got Ike Duell, who played defense for Minneapolis City, but I believe he's a midfielder for Maple Grove, who scored 5 goals and dished out 12 assists. So not a bad showing on the All-State second teams for AAA. It's really once you get into AA and Single A first team where you can see the Minneapolis City effect. And it starts with Jabari Kibisu, John.
Had a little good season.
Not a bad season coming off of a really good summer with the Minneapolis City Futures. He scored 24 goals and dished out 6 assists for Totino Grace. Like, that's a hell of a season there.
Yeah, it is. It scored most of the goals for that U19 team as well.
Yeah, he did. Him and Colin. Yeah. And then you've got from Rosemount, Ethan Brown, who slotted in with the Futures at I believe left back. Yeah, outside back occasionally. I think he played more forward for Rosemount, and he was able to score 7 and assist 5 on the season. You got the Woodbury duo of Elijah Fearing and Olin Francois. Elijah with 16 goals and 10 assists this year. Olin from his defensive midfielder role, 9 goals and 3 assists. And Eric Knoll from Egan, eventual state champs. Eric led Egan to the trophy with his 16 goals and 13 assists. And then, of course, beyond Elijah Fearing as a Mr. Soccer finalist, the Mr. Soccer winner was Ronan Selbo, who ended his season at Washburn, his senior season, with 16 goals and 7 assists. So these kids, John, this is 50% of the starting lineup week in and week out for the U19 team.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just phenomenal to see that they continue to succeed. And you can see that, as you're gonna get into, you can see that trend continue once you get up into, especially the MIAC level with some of these guys. Because I'll tell you, over the fall, as you know, I announce those Augsburg games. I do the play-by-play on the stream, and it feels like every MIAC team that comes to Augsburg, I'm like, these guys are all Minneapolis City guys. These guys are all Minneapolis City guys. Oh, good, McAllister, we got Minneapolis City guys on that team. Oh, here comes Hamlin, Minneapolis City guys on that team. So It's been really fun to watch the MIAC this year and just watch the level of competition rise. And I gotta say, the futures are a big part of that.
Yeah, I tossed it out on social last weekend when, when I had the pleasure to take one of my boys down to Gustavus to watch the MIAC final. Nate, the level of play in that game was so high. Yeah. Like, not only were the players much cleaner on the ball than years past, they were positionally more advanced. Tactically, they executed more advanced ideas and concepts. And I will not say it's like all due to us, but in that final, I counted there were 18 players across both teams that have been with us in some way or another, and 85%, I did the math, of each coaching staff either played or coached for Minneapolis City. And there were a number of players that were in that game as well that I didn't include in there that played across both of the leagues that Minneapolis City plays in. So the soccer scene in Minnesota has brought an elevation since we booted the club in 2016. And I think that there is a direct reflection of that. That's why I said we're not responsible for all of it, but there is definitely a connection to the fact that we came in with our model and how we go about things, and other clubs replicated that model, and it's making soccer in Minnesota better, which was our intended goal in the beginning.
Yeah. So
that specific game, I mean, it was so competitive, Nate. And the quality of the MIAC is there now. And I mean, if you took a look in a mirror and looked at a Division I soccer game pre-COVID, that's exactly what it was. So you're looking at like the Division III landscape, specifically in this area, has grown leaps and bounds since I started being more involved in it in 2016. So since clearly there's a quite large number of players playing across all divisions of college soccer within the Crow's Nest, we're only going to focus today on the MIAC players, and we'll go into the best of the rest in a later show. Does that sound good, Nate?
I think that's a good approach, and you'll see, like I said, it's
a lot coming here.
It's hard to find a MIAC team that doesn't have Minneapolis City players on it, so it's good to spend some time just local in the conference.
All right, so I'm going to rip off some stuff here, and then I'll pause, let you have a little bit of reaction. So all MIAC first team, number 1 on the list for us is Nick Kent, featured in 15 games, 14 starts, had 1 assist, so didn't have quite the offensive showing as a center back like he did the year before, scoring 3 goals. But he was involved in a back line that only gave up 18 goals all season, about 1 goal per game, and had 9 shutouts. So Nick Kent putting in the work over at McAllister. Then you go over to 2 members of the Augsburg contingent. Mizel Harris played and started in all 17 games that he featured in. 7 goals, 6 assists for 20 points. And then Tomas Mena, who was pretty much a starting mainstay up top for Minneapolis City futures in the summer, but didn't necessarily see that translate over the past 2 years, playing behind some pretty prolific strikers at Augsburg. But he featured in 21 games with 17 starts, had 9 goals, 5 assists for 23 points. So really good year for Tomas. Over at Bethel, you see, excuse me, over at Bethel, Jordan Ross, who featured for the Minneapolis City Futures U23s. 19 games, 19 starts, 5 goals, 3 assists for 31 points.
Wow.
And then the next two are both the goalkeepers who featured for the USL2 team. Daniel Sessler finished out his college career, 17 games, 16 starts, 26 goals against for an average of 1.59 per game, 110 saves. So that defense is pretty leaky in front of him. And he contributed to 4 shutouts. Evan Siefkin, 15 games, 15 starts, gave up 1 less goal than Daniel, 25. And that was for a 1.68 goals per game average, had 76 saves and 3 shutouts. Next, you see Clemente Archuch-Puig, who unfortunately had to move to St. Croix midway through the season, or early on in the season, due to the fact that his college coach came over to coach us. But he finished out his career at St. Olaf with 21 games played, 20 starts, 3 goals, 11 assists, and 17 points. So the other two on the roster that we want to mention, and you kind of did a good job of it with the high school players, as some of the players who had been with us in some other form or fashion. Jesse Juarez, who played with our original Futures program, then off to Duluth, and then ultimately, I don't know where he played last year, but he did go off to Duluth for a season. Featured for Hamlin, 19 games, 19 starts, 5 goals, 9 assists for 19 points. And Ryder Tomlinson, last year's Rookie of the Year, couldn't quite figure out how to make it work this summer with playing with Minneapolis City, but did play over the winter. His stats in the MIAC this season: 17 games, 16 goals, 16 starts, 7 goals, 10 assists, and 24 points. So you move beyond that and you go into kind of like the accolades. So you had Rookie of the Year, Ricky Yawson at Hamlin, who featured for the 2023s this year. 17 games played, 10 starts with 13 goals, 5 assists, and 31 points for a rookie. That is pretty darn good, Nate.
That's huge.
And then you round it out with Player of the Year. Before we get into some honorable mentions here. Player of the Year was another player who needed to stay away from City due to an Oliver flying into our nest, or back into our nest, was Shea Bechtel. Started all 21 games that he featured in for the Olies this season, 12 goals, 8 assists, and 32 points. And I wanted to note, too, that from a career perspective, he is the all-time leader in points with 126, fourth in points per game with 1.36, first in goals at 41, first in game-winning goals at 15, first in assists at 44, first in assists per game at 0.52, so about half an assist a game, and first in games played at 91. So he almost played 100 college soccer games, which is very impressive. So yeah. I'll stop there, Nate, as we talk about the first team players.
Yeah, I think, and just looking up and down this list, again, you see guys that, like you said, were kind of nailed on for us in the summertime. I'm looking especially though at Tomas Meno, who didn't start the season as the guy at Augsburg, right? There's a lot of talent up top for Tomas, but by the end of the year, he'd had his best year statistically, and really was a big reason that Augsburg team ended up clinching the 3rd seed in the MIAC and advancing past McAllister in the first round. Otherwise, it just had been a pleasure to watch these guys. You think about Sessler, who, not the first choice keeper for USL2, got most of his minutes this summer with the UPSL squad, even with the U19 squad.
Yeah,
just taking the minutes where he could get them, and it paid off too, right? Kept him in shape, kept him hot, and 110 saves is so many.
A lot of saves.
So many. So yeah, congratulations to all these guys.
So when you move into honorable mention, not as an extensive list, because the honorable mention list is short in itself. 2 names that stand out, both members of Coach Roy's U23 team. First, for McAllister, Chris France featured 18 starts in 18 games with 6 goals, 6 assists, and 18 points as a sophomore. And then the guy who, in our last Pros in College show that we did, that we talked about at length, was Mitchell Munzing at Augsburg, featured in only 13 games due to injury, starting 11 of those. And we found the story quite humorous that one of those games that he did not start in, of the 13, he came from a lab and basically got dressed and played soccer and scored a hat trick.
Yep.
But he finished out his season that was cut short due to injury at 10 goals, 6 assists, and 26 points. And before you go, Nate, I know what you're probably going to say. If he was on the field the whole season, he would probably have been in the conversation for player of the year.
Oh, yeah, that's absolutely. Munzing was still on the MIAC leaderboard at the end of the season in a number of statistics, including like shots on goal and goals per game and things like that, even though he hadn't played 8 games. He was even, I'll tell you, John, I found out in that McAllister game, he was available off the bench if it went to penalties. He would have been put in, but he just was not cleared for contact. So that's how valuable he was to that Augsburg team. Chris France, former Mr. Soccer finalist, also was pretty much one of the only shining offensive spots on that McAllister team. They didn't let in a lot of goals, but they didn't score a lot of goals either, unless Chris was involved. So congrats to those two guys as well.
And then finally, before we get into any sort of coaching honors, the all-tournament MIAC team featured a number of first-team players, or all first-team players that we already talked about. Nick Kent from McAllister, Misael Harris from Augsburg. Jeffrey Richter popped up on the all-tournament team. He was also a member of the U23 squad last year. Clemente Archie-Twig, who we mentioned, and then the bazooka, Robbie Buzakovic from St. Olaf, had just a fantastic final, ended up scoring the penalty winner that saw them beat 5th ranked in the country, Gustavus, to take home their 3rd straight MIAC title for St. Olaf. So not a bad way to pop up on the list there, Robbie.
What a game that was too, when you think about it, John. In the end, decided by that penalty. And that both those teams would have gone on to going on to the dance, but there was so much quality there. It's just like for the bragging rights and for the trophy, still couldn't believe that game. And it was played in such awful weather.
Yeah, I mean, I was sitting there. And that game itself, like I talked about, such high quality, Nate. But when you talk about, like, from a coaching perspective, you had Justin versus Tudor, and they know each other so well and are such good friends that every time St. Olaf and Justin did something, like, there was an immediate answer from Tudor and Gustavus.
Yep.
And it was an end-to-end back and forth game because St. Olaf goes up 1-0. 15 minutes later, equalized. Then second half comes, St. Olaf goes up early. 10 minutes later, equalized. 15 minutes later, St. Olaf goes up on top, and then it was a case of who's going to make the mistake from a tactic perspective and a personnel perspective to either see that game out for St. Olaf or to see it go into overtime. And ultimately, the Olies were the victors on the day.
What was that, a handball call in the box, by the way?
Yes, and it was a handball. Everyone who I tell that I was there asked, and I was like, yes, it was a handball. Yeah. Essentially, the defender went in to block a shot, and it hit his leg, and then his arm was outstretched, and the shot was hit so hard from such a close distance that it probably would have gone in if it hadn't hit his hand that was outstretched. So, the referee was right there. I thought the refereeing on the day was really good as well. So, whether you believe that or not, because you're a Gustavus fan and you lost, it was true. The referees did a good job.
Cool. Well, I know we've got one more award to get to, and it is for someone near and dear to our heart with the club.
Yes.
So why don't you go ahead and take that away, John?
So we're going to finish with Coach of the Year. And you could have thrown a dart, like I mentioned, and been guaranteed to hit a Crow connection in this category. But the 2024 honors go to our old friend, the soccer Buddha himself, Jeremy Iwaskovic at Bethel. This is his first win ever in the category. So super happy for Jeremy. Jeremy guided the Royals to a 4th place finish in the standings in the MIAC with an overall record of 11-8, no draws, and a 6-4 record in the conference. So when you say no draws, you know that if the game was tied, Jeremy was going for the win, which is great. And you can kind of see that by the record that they had, some very close wins or losses that could have been draws, but they really went for it. The stamp of his season, I believe, was what Bethel in the 6-0 dismantling of a very talented Augsburg team, where I think that set the tone for their pathway to actually lock in the 4th seed in the conference tournament, ultimately losing out to Carleton 5-2.
Yeah, and I'll tell you though, that game also was the wake-up call for Augsburg. So I think turning point for both teams' season there late in the season for both of them to make their push to be the 3rd and the 4th seed is Augsburg kind of shook that off and ended up drawing against St. Olaf and won out after that. Bethel able to win out after that, and it was a great effort. But I mean, dude, what can you say about Coach Jeremy? He's one of the nicest guys in soccer, if not the nicest guy in soccer. He's got such a wonderful philosophy, and just for what he did at that Bethel team, I think it was near the end of the season where I was like, what is Bethel doing in 3rd place? Like Bethel's reputation, not great. Bethel's product on field has gotten so much better under Coach Jeremy. So congratulations to him, and he absolutely deserves this.
I texted him after the news broke, and I was like, "Hey, congrats, coach!" And he's like, "Oh, thanks, man." He's like, "We do it for the kids." And I was like, "Yeah, but you do it for yourself a little bit too." And he's like, "I agree." And I said, "It probably also doesn't feel bad to smack around Augsburg 6-0." And then he just ended the conversation with, "Soccer was fun that day."
Yep. Hey, I just would encourage anyone to, if they want to learn more about Coach Jeremy, go back and listen to our 200th episode. We had a nice interview where he was able to sit down with us at Utapils and talk to us about what he's been up to and some of his favorite memories from that first season with Minneapolis City as the coach. Such a good interview, and it even has one of the best sound bites ever that made our hype reel.
Which one was that?
He's the closing quote of like, "Soccer is a gift."
Oh yeah, how could I forget soccer is a gift?
Yeah.
If I could tell you how many times I get text and emoji of a soccer ball and a present from former Crow players when we win a game, it sticks. So thank you for that soundbite, Jeremy.
Absolutely.
And on that note, that will do it for this week's show. We have to give a quick shout out to our wonderful show sponsor, footballstadiumprints.com. Our friends at footballstadiumprints.com are always expanding their soccer-focused t-shirt design, prints, and more. And do not forget, you can use the code CROWS10. That is CROWS10 for 10% off everything you purchase. And remember, all orders ship right from the United States, so there are no pesky international shipping charges. As a reminder, Minneapolis City is a 501c3, so you can feel good about that membership because it doubles as a charitable donation to the club that does good. Memberships for the 2025 season are on sale now and discounted, so get in early and save and get a vote on the big off-season decisions like kit designs, scarf designs, and currently the board members, and much, much more. We know you have thoughts. Let us know what you want us to cover this season. We whether or not we want to have an interview or a certain person come on. Happy to do that as long as it's within reason. I don't think we're getting Taylor Twellman. But maybe Jimmy Conrad will come back. Jimmy
Conrad again.
Yeah, get Jimmy Conrad again.
I can't believe we got him once.
Yeah. And then his Ask Sean Anything segment was pretty entertaining as well. So connect with us on Twitter X at The People's Pitch. We're on Instagram at People's Pitch Podcast. And you can even email us if that's still your thing to do with questions and topics you want us to cover on the show at mplscitysc@gmail.com. And of course, you can always connect with the club on Twitter X, explain to President Pribble at mplscitysc. But hit us up first so we can get you some of that show content. That is all for this week. I am John. That was Nate. We are starting up the podcast engine again, as you have heard for the past 30 or so minutes. And we're going to bring the show back up with more regularity with actual Crow topics, soccer news, and of course, everyone's favorite player or staff interviews. So tell us if you want us to interview anyone. But until next time, you got hoofed.